So imagine telling yourself like 5 years ago that Alabama, the standard of college football, would be losing five-star talents to the transfer portal because of bidding wars. Yeah, I completely understand now why Nick Saban wanted to get out of the game. But freshman cornerback Jalylen Mbakwe plans to leave Tuscaloosa after 1 year because there is at least one program willing to pay him a seven-figure NIL deal. And when you throw in the fact he's got 3 years of eligibility and watch the high school tape, you'd understand why. He is going to be one of the most sought-after players in the portal, and he's worth it. But who can afford the Clay, Alabama native? Let's break it all down. Welcome on to SEC Unfiltered. It's Cole Thompson here. Make sure that you like the video, hit that ring notification down below, and subscribe to the channel because we talk college football every single day. Download the podcast version of the show wherever you get your podcast listening systems. Follow us on the socials. The link is in the description. Follow me on the socials at Mr. Cole Thompson, and check out all of our great work found at SECUnfiltered.com. This episode is brought to you by our friends over at RHOBACK. Go to RHOBACK.com this holiday season and use the promo code SECU for 20% off your first purchase. What better gift to give someone in your life than a RHOBACK hoodie, a RHOBACK fleece, a RHOBACK pullover, a RHOBACK pair of pants? RHOBACK.com, promo code SECU for 20% off your first purchase. Jalylen Mbakwe is a difference maker. Now, the numbers won't back that up this year the way it will for Ryan Williams, but you got to remember that these two were the foundational pieces for a new era of Crimson Tide football underneath Jaylen Mbakwe. They're best friends. They're connected at the hip. The two are supposed to be the offensive juggernaut and the defensive guru. This past season, in 12 games, he played pretty well. 15 tackles, 1 tackles for loss, 2 pass breakups. He also got effectively used on special teams, had a punt return for 46 yards. And this was the number 2 cornerback in the country and the number 3 player in the state of Alabama. He was well worth it. And the report is that there is another school out there willing to go spend money on him. In fact, I would understand why. Every school in the country should be dropping 7 figures to get a boundary cornerback. I don't think many people understand when you have a guy of this caliber, somebody who can be an enforcer, take away the number 1 wide receiver, that alters every offensive game plan. And more importantly, that will do wonders for your team when it comes to securing your spot in the college football playoff. Every university is going after him. Michigan should go after him. Ohio State should be going after him. Clemson, that finally is deciding to enter the portal stage, is going to go after him. But who can afford him? Let's start off with the obvious one. It's Alabama. I don't understand why people are saying Alabama is just going to watch as Jalylen Mbakwe leaves overnight. Ryan Williams, the 5-star wide receiver, who is best friends with this kid, recently posted on his Instagram, bingo, we got action. And naturally, people are saying, well, we got action because we're both going to get paid a lot of money. Yeah, by Alabama. When did Alabama stop being Alabama? I understand that you don't want to go ahead and enter this stage where you're winning in the portal and you are only buying players to keep them around. But let's just call a spade a spade. There is a standard in Tuscaloosa. There are expectations supposed to be made when Jaylen Mbakwe signed on the dotted line. College football playoff, national championships, number 1 recruiting class, number 1 transfer portals. Just because Saban decided to step on down does not mean the aura of what Alabama football is changing. So just because if you're going to see other teams get involved in bidding wars, that doesn't mean that you can't also get involved. And in fact, when you look at what a guy like Mbakwe brings to this team, especially when you lost guys like Devonta Smith, when you're going to lose guys like Malachi Moore, you need a young foundation. You got to at least make a ploy. And it seems like Alabama is doing that. And at the end of the day, if you love the culture, if you love the fit, if you love the atmosphere of what is Crimson Tide football, and you get the same deal that's matched by whoever is else out there, why would you go anywhere else? It's Bama, and you're an Alabama native. You grew up watching the Crimson Tide. You grew up screaming Roll Tide. You grew up watching what would happen at Bryant-Denny Stadium with countless cornerbacks, whether that be Drake Kirkpatrick, whether that be Patrick Surtain, whether that be D. Milner. That means something to you. So naturally, you should be willing to stick around if the actual asking price is there. But I can tell you that Ole Miss is probably going to match it. Ole Miss is the team that many people believe is going after Jalylen Mbakwe. And I get it. You are a team that last season fell short of going to the college football playoff. You have an NIL collective that doesn't like that feeling. They want to know that they're going to be a player in the transfer portal year in and year out. And by the way, the one caveat that a guy like Lane Kiffin has over Nick Saban, over Jaylen Mbakwe, over Brian Kelly, over Kirby Smart, you come here, you're going to leave better prepared for the NFL. That's why I'm called the Portal King. Go look at every single player that has entered the portal and joined the team down in Oxford. They've boosted their draft grade. Walter Nolan is going to be a top 20 pick in this year's draft. Trey Harris is going to be a top 40 selection come April 2025. Jordan Watkins is going to be draft eligible. Princely Umanmielen is going to be a top 100 selection. Would they have been that at their former schools? Who's to say? But I can guarantee you the fact that they went to Hotty Toddy Land and they got better prepared for Sunday football, that's going to benefit them. So if Jalylen Mbakwe realizes I get to go get paid, I get to go play in a school that is going to better prepare me for the next stage of my career. And also, I'm going to stay in the SEC. Why are you going to turn that down? If Alabama lets him walk, they're letting him walk on over to Lane Kiffin, who probably is going to guarantee at this point, if we don't make the college football playoff in 2025, you deserve to fire me down in Oxford, Mississippi. Because if I am putting in the time and emphasis to bring in the right personnel, I am putting in the time and emphasis to put in the right pieces around me, and I am making sure that we're going out, we're upgrading. We are a new standard of Rebel football. We are not going to be content finishing every single year around 8-4 and 9-3 and say, good on us for maybe going to a better bowl game than what was advertised. No, we want to be players in the portal. We want to be considered national championship caliber programs. We want to be right alongside the Crimson Tide and the Bulldogs and the Longhorns and anybody else that you can throw your way. So we got to go pay for Jalylen Mbakwe. It's well worth it over the next 3 years. LSU is going to be a player. And why do I say LSU? Because Brian Kelly is matching $1 million every single time in the portal that an NIL deal gets done. He can afford him himself. He can literally go to Jalylen Mbakwe's house and say, here's $2 million, come play for me. He can do that. And because there's no rules or regulation in NIL, it can happen. LSU is going big in the portal right now. They have been one of probably the biggest winners through the first week of the transfer portal. They've gotten better defensively. They've added in some key personnel on offense. They brought in Barry and Brown. They got their contingency plan with Michael Van Buren coming on in to back up Garrett Nussmeier. Why not go swing for the big alpha? Why not go get your dude? By the way, you play Alabama. What was one of the biggest elements in last year's game? The fact that you couldn't stop Jalen Milroe in the open field. That includes open field tackling from your cornerbacks. You got to be able to have a boundary dude that is willing to make plays on anybody in space and be able to create turnovers and be able to win 50-50 balls and turn it into 90-10 turnover ratios. And if Brian Kelly wants to guarantee his spot in the college football playoff and probably live up to the expectations about going to a national championship, he already said we'll see you at the Natty in 2026. You're going to need a guy like Mbakwe to come on in. You can afford it. You absolutely can. People are getting tired of the shtick down in Baton Rouge. They want results. Everyone wins. Everyone who has come on in since Nick Saban has hoisted up a title. Brian Kelly wants his. He fits a system. Blake Baker, you got to work with Corey Raidman. You're going to see the fruits of your labor. And by the way, LSU is not this slouch of a program. It punches out Sunday talent left and right. It's got to be on the radar. So does Texas. Why Texas? Well, they're going to lose Jahdae Barron. If you want to know anything more about Jahdae Barron, well, let me tell you, Jalylen Mbakwe, he was just the Jim Thorpe Award winner. That meant that he was the best defensive back in college football. And he learned that while playing underneath Pete Kwiatkowski and Johnny Nansen. So if you want to become the best, you want to be known as an elite shutdown corner, you want to be able to play on the Sunday stage, you go to a place like Texas. They're going to be a player in the national championship stage for the next 3 to 5 years, if not longer. In fact, I'm probably lying to myself every single year. The way Alabama is, the way Georgia is, the way that we say LSU should be, that's Texas. They're already there. They've arrived to that level. And you believe that they're going to spend money? They're going to spend it out the wazoo. They've already offered the guy from Georgia Tech. They've already brought in a couple of wide receivers. They've already made some moves from some cornerbacks. Why not go swing big for the prize jewel that is Jalylen Mbakwe? If Alabama's willing to offer 7 figures, you offer 7.2. If they're willing to offer 7.5 figures, you offer 7.8. You make sure that he is a guaranteed bona fide shutdown stud that joins your team. 2 more for you. Auburn has to be in the conversation because if you're going to hurt your rival, why not hurt him with the prize charm? Hugh Freeze is building a team that on paper should at least be competitive for 10 wins. They should be competitive for a national championship with the right piece around. Now, we're not sure what's going to happen when it comes to a team, when it comes to a quarterback like Jackson Arnold. We're not sure when it comes to these offensive linemen that he's adding on in, but he's building a team that should be competitive and winning titles, or at least bettering the stage for his shot to go to a college football playoff. You need a boundary corner. This was one of the more underrated defenses in college football last year. Auburn was on the list of teams that he was considering during his initial recruitment. It would make sense that they go after him. It would make sense that they keep him in the state. And if your NIL collective, the Yellowwood, is willing to pay it, it's probably worth the price. Because number one, you get a stud. And number two, you hurt your biggest rival. That's always key number one. You want your rival to suffer in pain. And the same thing goes for Georgia. This past season, Georgia's secondary, far from what we usually expect. Georgia's defense did not deliver a performance that usually we believe in. They're usually the most elite team in college football. And it felt like that secondary cornerback position was a big problem. Julian Humphrey was benched. He's now at Texas A&M. You got to be able to bring in somebody else. They were in the running for Mbakwe during the recruiting process as well. It was Alabama, it was Georgia, and it was Auburn down the stretch. They've been missing a guy like A.J. Harris, who came on in last year and decided to transfer to Penn State. They need that guy back. Why are you not going to swing big and go after him? If you are Kirby Smart and you realize Alabama is supposed to be the standard, but we're right behind them, we want to surpass them, you go get a Jalylen Mbakwe. And then you make sure that when Alabama comes to Athens next year, he's starting against Ryan Williams. You make that the game of all games and play chess with Kalen DeBoer. Because right now, it's not a Nick Saban thing. It's an Alabama thing with Kirby Smart. So why not take the player that maybe is the reason why Alabama wins next year and makes it the reason why Georgia does? But let me know in the comment section down below. Where does Jalylen Mbakwe ultimately land? Is he going back to Alabama on a brand new NIL deal? Is he going to Ole Miss because they're willing to pay it? What school best fits him going into 2025? Make sure that you like the video, hit the ring notification down below. Make sure that also you hit subscribe because we talk college football every single day on the channel. Download the podcast version of the show and check out all of our great work found at SECUnfiltered.com. Until next time, folks, I am Cole Thompson. And just remember, the transfer portal, it's college football's free agency. Bye.